Good afternoon, everyone. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on August 16 at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Texas. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Mayor, you may call the meeting to order. It is 5:03. Next item is invocation.
Let's all stand and for the prayer and remain standing for the pledge. Father God, we thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. And we thank you for the many blessings here in Brownsville. And Lord God, as our students and faculty go back to school, we ask you to bless and protect every one of them. Lead and guide every administrator, every police officer, every security guard. And Lord, I ask you that we bring God back into our schools, to bring us back to a time when the things that have been happening did not happen. Lead and guide each of us, Lord God, and especially in this meeting here today. Lead and guide our mayor, our commissioners, and anyone that presents anything for the very best for the city of Brownsville, that you be glorified in everything. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And now we'll have a short moment of silence where we can all add our prayers to what has already been spoken. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
I believe there's somebody on the, online that may have their microphone open. Can we just ask that everybody that's participating in the meeting virtually to please mute your microphone? Thanks.
Next item, we have proclamations. Proclamation recognizing Ed's Taekwondo Academy, Commissioner De Los Santos and Mayor Mendez.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and read this. Do y'all want to come up? Welcome. This is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing Ed's Taekwondo Academy. Whereas in July 2022, Santiago Hernandez, Elizabeth Ortiz, Alexandra de la Cruz, Isaiah Gonzalez, Jorge Trevino, Felipe de la Cruz, Sage Rodriguez, Melanie Gonzalez, Shamila Entreverde, Rowena Rodriguez, all took part of a journey to compete in a national event to represent their community at the biggest stage. And whereas Master Ed, his sons Michael A. Adriaga, Adrian Adriaga, Edward D. Adriaga, and assistant coach Randy Gonzalez set a vision for the athletes to go and display their skill in the sport of Taekwondo and earn the glory. And whereas in doing so, 5 medals were earned from a pool of thousands in this rigorous AAU national event in the sport of Taekwondo, which was held at Las Vegas, Nevada. And whereas the support given from the parents of these children, as well as the desire, discipline, determination displayed by each athlete, led to this great achievement that only a few have ever accomplished. And whereas the blood, sweat, and tears that the students endured throughout this journey led to goals being accomplished, as well as life lessons being learned that will never be forgotten. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby recognize Ed's Taekwondo Academy and encourage the residents of Brownsville to celebrate its athletes' dedication to excellence in their athletic endeavors. Done on this, the 16th day of August, 2022, by myself as mayor and the rest of the City Commission. Congratulations. Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, can y'all stand up for a quick photo? Can't see everybody, that's sorry. 1, 2, 3. Thank y'all.
Thank you. And Master Ed, the podium's yours if you'd like to say anything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. City Commission, Mayor, thank you for giving us this honor. It is a great privilege for us as Brownsville citizens to come in and strive to become better for tomorrow. These students, if you would have seen them come starting in the summer, they basically just gave it their all. What I mean by that is that as soon as school finished, they came in, day out, working about maybe 6 hours a day at the school, and not only that, at home. So in behalf of me, I'm very honored. Not only that, I'm very proud that the support for our community was there for the children. Not only that, our parents had a lot to do with it. I wouldn't be able to do it by myself. And plus, most importantly, the team. Without them, we're nothing. And that's what we need to do, work together. Mayor, before we do finish, I want to give you guys a little small token of our appreciation and just thank you for recognizing their greatest effort.
Well, it's from Vegas. It's supposed to stay there, right? Can I have all the parents stand up as well? You deserve to be recognized just as much as...
At this time, is there anybody with our parents who come in and get behind us so that we can go ahead and take a group picture? And we're going to right in the middle. Young ladies on this side, young boys on the opposite side. Very careful. Boys on the other side. Look. Start this side. Lean.
You can walk around.
I'll wait, okay. 1, 2, 3.
Our next proclamation is proclamation honoring revival of cultural arts, Frida Kahlo Festival 10th Anniversary.
And this is sponsored by Commissioner Galansky
Santos.
and myself. Proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas. You know what, let me bring the girls up here before we do that. Hi, Beto. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, honoring revival of cultural arts 10th Annual Frida Kahlo Festival. Whereas in 2010, the Carlota K. Petrina Cultural Center, a historical building in the Buena Vida neighborhood which honors its namesake, opened with the vision to inspire minds and enhance creativity through the celebration of culture through art. And whereas in 2013, Revival of Cultural Arts incorporated as a nonprofit to support the Carlota K. Petrina Cultural Center and bridge the surrounding community with the downtown historic district and Main Street. And whereas Revival of Cultural Arts is a 501c3 nonprofit organization with a mission to create opportunities that will engage the community to experience art, music, dance, film, community theater, and cultural events with an emphasis in music, visual and performing arts education for everyone. And whereas Revival of Cultural Arts actively and successfully engages the underserved in our community, allowing the city to bring federal dollars for the benefit of those least able to afford access to the arts through classes, programs, and events. And whereas Revival of Cultural Arts' array of culture celebrating events throughout the year includes the Frida Kahlo Festival, which serves over 250 students registered in the program and is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby honor Revival of Cultural Arts, ROCA, their 10th annual Frida Kahlo Festival and the culture it brings to our community, and further call upon the residents of Brownsville to do the same and to support programs such as this, which contribute to the cultural identity of our area and serve as a draw for visitors to our great city. Done this 16th day of August, 2022, Mayor and City Commissioners of Brownsville, Texas.
If y'all could stand for a photo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we would just like to share our appreciation for everything that you do for our wonderful community. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Mendez and fellow commissioners. My name is Alexandra Torres. I'm a Roca Scholar, and it is an absolute honor to be receiving this proclamation today. My sister Melina and I are here today wearing cultural attire known as tehuanas from the state of Oaxaca in Mexico, similar to the attire that Frida Kahlo herself was also known for. We humbly thank you for this honor and I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge all your support for our beloved community, especially the arts and this organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to Roca for everything you do. You do a fantastic job with programming for our students. Thanks.
Next item, we have public comment period. Mayor, we have 7 public comments.
Okay?
3 wish to register their opinion only, but I'm still going to call out their names. The first one is Mr. Paul Laverme, and I believe he's on the
Hello there.
phone.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Welcome. Go ahead, sir, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Mendez and commissioners. And congratulations to everyone that's been recognized by the city of Brownsville for their community goodwill. So cheers to you all. Mayor and commissioners, I'm here for a second time before you in a request for your assistance in my community efforts to find a solution for extreme noise coming from 2 commercial properties. I provided you with a letter and a few attachments so you'd understand the concern, and commentary from Rick Vasquez, Director of Planning. Our complaint is ordinance, and we'd like, I represent the petitioners. There's 5 of us total, all property owners here along the Resaca and 1 on the edge. Some have been here for 3 generations, 2 others for at least 30 or 40 years. I'm rather new. This is now 2.5, almost 3 years residing here. I vote yes on Brownsville all the time. But this problem of noise from 1050 and 1060 Ruben Torres is a big problem. And I've submitted some suggestions for the commissioners to consider for implementing, even on a temporary basis, to see if the complaints stop and the owners and the users of those properties are put in check. Right now, it is like free reign, all hours, all days, unsupervised, uncontrolled, and we are at harm because of the noise levels, vibrations, a violation of our quiet enjoyment rights, basically. Now, our common property line is a Resaca, so we are, we share a very close proximity to this place. So I was asking in my suggestions for solution to use residential guidelines for decibel limits on noise, because this is all, these buildings are surrounded by residents. Number 2, put a curfew.
Sir, I'm sorry. Sir, you're out of time. Thank you very much for your comment.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, Mayor Mendez, Commissioner.
That's okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
The next one we have is Ms. Zaina Zamora. She only wishes to register her opinion.
Okay.
The third one, we have Ms. Ashley Alshire. She's here in person.
Okay, come on up. You'll have 3 minutes.
I'm not asking for just my opinion. I'm not submitting just my opinion, I'm submitting a request. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Mendez and the commissioners. I want to thank you for your service to our community. It is not an easy task to seek an office where you must put the needs of the people in your districts first before thyself. My name is Ashley Alshire. I'm from the Valley. I have known some of you since I was a teenager, whether you realize it or not. I graduated high school here, left to finish my education, and traveled the world to work and live. I am back in Brownsville to raise my children, and that is why I'm here tonight. My greatest concern is the ability to raise my children in a safe community where I'm confident their needs and safety is put first inside our institutions. Not only for my children, but also for all the children here in our community. After becoming a mother of a disabled child that needs, the need to protect the voiceless is now my life's work. You all have received my email, and I don't feel the need to go into those details right now, but before the community, I submit you my request. I'm requesting a full investigation to the targeting of myself and others in the community by a sitting commissioner and the Children's Museum of Brownsville. I am requesting that no hot tax funds be considered or given to these organizations that I have included in my email, and I will refrain from stating publicly everyone. But I ask the commission and the city finance department to take seriously my allegations and supporting evidence as just the tip of the iceberg. And if a full inquiry and official audit of said persons employed to be verified is completely unhampered, I feel there would be sufficient evidence. I want nothing more than full confidence that you all have thought about the children in regards to the severity of this issue, and that no one's opinion of me be influenced by outside opinions other than those that are made from direct participating in exchange. I spoke in front of you all in the spring, and so I'd like to put a time stamp as 2/28/22 as the day that I became a target. And some of you all started your investigation on me. I like to put a timestamp on today that you all, the commission and the city, put a timestamp to investigate the truth. I hope my own commissioner and some of you others support my request. I thank you for your time and service. And I'd also like to recognize and congratulate everybody else that was recognized today. Congratulations. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Sandra Trevino. She would like to register her opinion only. Next, we have Ms. Claudia Serrano. She just wishes to register her opinion only. Next, we have Ms. Julie Pedraza. Ms. Julie Pedraza.
Ms. Pedraza, are you here, either in person or virtually? Okay.
Next, we have Ms. Mireya Garcia. Ms. Mireya Garcia.
Hi, I'm here virtually.
Okay, Ms. Garcia, go ahead. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Mendez and City Commissioners. My name is Mireya Garcia, and I am a current student at UTRGV and a recent Brownsville UTRGV Mathematics and Science Academy graduate. Today, I am providing public testimony in support of the Fair Practice Ordinance. As a lesbian woman of color, I am always aware of how I'm perceived by others and how my identities can profoundly impact the way I'm treated. The truth is, no person should have to live in fear and worry whether they will have the same access to employment, housing, and public places as other people are afforded. People deserve to live authentically and freely. In the past year, trans and queer Texans have faced unprecedented attacks from the state and have seen a rise in homophobia and transphobia. These attacks have made it more dangerous for LGBTQ plus members to live authentically. Passing the Fair Practice Ordinance would ensure that such attacks in Brownsville such attacks that happen in Brownsville and discrimination are investigated and justice is pursued. More than ever, the City of Brownsville needs to ensure that all community members are valued, protected, and are given the same access to public spaces and opportunities. Today, I ask you to pass the Fair Practice Ordinance and to review it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Don Klupper. He's here in person.
Mr. Klepper, welcome. Just please introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
I'm glad to be back. The last time I was here, I addressed my comments straight to the mayor because it was about a historic house, and I think he remembers that. This time I want to address the fact that we have historic bad streets, and there's a difference between a bad street and an unsafe street. Coffee Road that I have to go down every day has become unsafe. The police are there because of wrecks constantly. This gentleman officer over here told me that one of his friends was involved in an accident recently there. There's a curve going by the old Hudson Estate, and it's totally unsafe. The road is just totally falling apart. And one of these days, if somebody goes through there fast enough, they're going to go straight through that big building full of attorneys at the end of that curve. One van almost went into that parking lot not long ago. It's become a total hazard. The old it's called Coffee Road now. It's formerly Coffee Port. It's the old 802, I found out. I didn't know this till recently. This used to be 802. Now it was supposed to have been abandoned and closed when 802 opened up, that we have now opened up, but it's still there. And its condition is horrible because I've been told it's been over 50 years since it was repaved. 50 years. Are you kidding me? How long do you expect a street to last? And the city just recently did a stretch about 100 yards long, paved in there, right before you get to Casa Oro to try to correct part of the problems. And that was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's fallen apart already because of the heavy rain we just had. It's already crumbled. Please, how long do we have to put up with this? Mr. Mayor, not just a few months ago, we had a conversation on Facebook. You made the comment that the city was flush with money, that the city was in the best financial condition it had ever been in, and that we had federal grants to repave some of these roads. What happened? Nothing's been done. The roads are just in crumbles, they're in shatters. But the worst of all is Coffee Road. I live almost exactly 1 mile from HEB on Paredes Line. On one side is HEB's 802, and the other side's Coffee Road. Thousands of people going in and out of HEB there
Mayor,
every day.
time is up.
And
Mr.
it's
Klepper,
just literally falling apart.
thank you so much.
Please get something done.
City Manager, can you please take note of that and make sure the street is in drivable condition?
It was actually, we're not supposed to respond necessarily, but it was already on our, a couple meetings ago, we approved the design for it.
That's correct, sir. Thank you.
Next item, we have work sessions. Item number 1, compensation analysis update. Organizational Development and Human Resources Department.
Good evening. We have Ms. Ray with us. Is she online?
Yes, she's online.
Okay. Hi, Ms. Catherine. Good afternoon.
If I could just start that we have, it's been a journey with regard to the compensation plan. For us, it's very important to recognize the work of our city employees. And for that, we've given a lot of time, energy through committee meetings with 3 commissioners and really number crunching and seeing what that market differences between what our employees are making today and what the market demonstrates. So I think first and foremost, we'd like to say that our employees are our most important resource. We care for them, they work very hard every day, and with them, we could not run this city. And so we first of all like to thank them for their work and let them know that, you know, there's been a lot of work, long weekends with OD and HR, Ms. Ray, the finance department, to really look at each and every one, not so much as a number, but as a person that works hard for the city. So with that, I don't want to say more, but just turn it around to Ms. Ray and OD and HR department. Thank you.
We can hear you. We cannot hear you, Ms. Catherine. I think you are on mute.
Is she presenting first?
Yes.
All right, while she figures it out, do you have something you were going to present, or is it just her?
I can start. Now we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Commission. I so appreciate the opportunity to be here with you virtually today and to present our findings and recommendations from this compensation study. We've been at this now for almost a year. So the city recognized last August that you were behind the market, that your salaries, some of your salaries were behind the market, and that there were some internal inequities. And so in December of 2021, we undertook this study, and I'm delighted to have had the opportunity to work with your staff since that time. Noel Bernal was the city manager at that time, and Mr. Bernal thought it was really important that rather than my coming in as a consultant and doing a turnkey study, which would have taken like maybe 4 months, that instead he wanted to have a core team of his staff trained in how to conduct these studies so that in the future, you could do them internally with or without the aid of a consultant from the outside. So I've been working with since December with Perla Cepeda, Laura Hernandez, Ivan Reyes, and Roberto Baez as the core team from the city staff, and have been training them all along the way in how to do a compensation analysis and how to do a compensation study. We went out into the market and we looked at total compensation. We looked at salaries and at benefits. So they now are experienced in dealing with both of those issues. Let me say that y'all saw, you saw evidence a year ago of issues. Well, in the last year, there have been a lot of changes that we had not seen for 40 years, especially in inflation and in salary increases. And those have just exacerbated the issues that were already in existence here in the city of Brownsville. So we've kind of been facing an uphill battle, but doing so with smiles on our faces and determined to find solutions. So let me say that we look at the employment cost index as a key factor in trying to see how salaries have increased, looking at the wages and salaries data in the ECI from the Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. And from March 2021 to March 2022, that showed an increase, ECI showed an increase of 5.1% for all workers, excluding incentive paid occupations, 4.6% for public administration workers, and public administration changes are going to be a little bit behind the March and even the June data from Department of Labor, because typically, at least in Texas, public sector changes occur at either the September 1 or October 1. So I think you're going to see a big difference in public administration workers after October 1. But in the private sector, we've seen in the last 12 months a 5.7% increase in wages, with some sectors showing increases as high as 7.8 and 8% year over year. And those data are supported by World at Work, which is the world's preeminent compensation organization, and other nationally respected organizations. So yeah, you were behind last year, and so now we're even more behind. So let's look at the next slide. Well, let me just say about the chart that is off to the right there. The green represents wages and salaries, and the gold represents benefits. So you can see how, you know, it was rocking along and then escalation. So yeah, that's where we are. Starting from there, let's look at what we set in terms of our initial timeline for non-civil service positions in the city of Brownsville. We started in December. You may recall we came before you, I believe it was December the 14th, with a list of cities, 15 to 16 cities, and data about how each of those cities compared to the city of Brownsville. And we asked you to select 12 cities for us to use in our study, which you did. Thank you very much. And then we began our planning, and we identified those contacts in those cities, and we identified benchmark jobs to use in the survey, so that we were looking at jobs from all parts of the organization, all departments, from all different levels, so that we would have a good mix of data to use to anchor the study to the market. And then we began preparing the market surveys for both salaries and benefits. And that was all in January and February. In March and April, we completed the surveys and got the contact information and got the salary and the benefit surveys out. I then trained your core staff team in how to score the jobs for internal equity using our point factor job analysis system, which is industry standard. We scored all the jobs, and then we started getting the data back from the 12 cities. That took longer than usual. I think the last couple of years I've noticed, I guess with the pandemic, that it's taken longer to get survey data back from cities than it used to. Step 4 was the monitoring process. We agreed on, I'm not sure what happened there. We agreed on the types of pay schedules to use for the city of Brownsville. We placed the jobs on the pay schedules, and your core staff team was working with me side by side at each of these steps. So they now know how to do all of that. And then your finance department prepared transition cost schedules, and we've gone through several iterations of that to get to where we are today. And we looked at red flag reviews to try to identify anything that kind of raised a red flag that we should look at a little more carefully to determine whether the data that we'd gotten was accurate and whether we could use it in placing the jobs on the pay structure. So Step 5, then we're in the process of preparing the report. Your staff is doing that. I've given them sample reports and some data to include in the report. And the implementation strategy, which we'll cover in this presentation today. We will be presenting the results to you today, and then again, I think early next month, asking you to vote on it, or maybe that's the end of this month. And then the implementation will occur in starting October 1. So that's where we are right now. Let's look at the next slide and see what we found. So what did we find when we looked at salaries, at the salary survey results? Well, we went out into the market with 47 benchmark jobs. We do focus our studies on the salary range data. We use the actual salary data to be sure that all the cities are paying within their ranges. But then we focus on the range data because our main goal is to put into place a structure for the city that you can use for a long time to come, just updating as you go along. We aimed for the market median upon instruction from the council last December. That would mean that half of the cities pay more, half pay less. So it's the 50th percentile. And when you look at the charts, you will receive the report, and the appendices will include 2 charts for every one of the 47 jobs, as well as great detail on the benefits survey. So when you look at the charts that will be there in Appendix A to the report, if you look at the range charts, the charts that show the salary ranges that each of the other 12 cities use and how your range compares with them, you should be able to look at the data at the top of the chart that says median minimum and median maximum, and that will give you approximately the entry level and the maximum of the range to which the job is assigned, unless there were mitigating factors that said we needed to place stronger emphasis on internal equity for that job. So where does the city of Brownsville fall in the market? Well, we got at least 3 matches. That's our criteria. We have to have at least 3 matches for the system to even produce a chart. For 46 of the 47 jobs, as far as range data goes, we did find that more than 3/4, approximately 78% of the city's benchmark jobs were 10% or more below the market at entry. What that means is the entry level that you're using currently for these jobs was more than 10% below what the market said the entry level should be today for those jobs. Now, for employees in 11 of those 46 benchmark jobs, the current pay that you're paying individuals in that job is actually above what the new entry should be. So for people in those 11 benchmark jobs, there will be 0 cost to the city to implement the plan. Because if somebody is being paid more than the minimum, but less than the maximum, then they're just slotted into the range wherever their current salary falls. But still, that left over half of the benchmark jobs that were paid below the new entry, and many of them were substantially double digits below the new entry. So what kind of cost are we looking at? Well, we have details for you on the following slides, but let me just summarize to say that about 26%, or about 1/4 of your employees are currently paid above the new entry. So about 1/4 of your employees will just slot into the new pay grades with no additional cost to the city to implement the plan. But approximately 65% of your employees will need to be adjusted. Their pay will need to be adjusted just to go to the entry of the new pay grade. And about the other 9% of those are represented by vacancies, current vacancies. So generally, the cost for salaries and benefits tied to the salaries is about 3.5 million. What we have available is 3.1 million, which is 5% of current payroll. So you can see we have a challenge. Let's go to the next slide. So let's look at the benefits survey. And what did we find there? What we found there was that for most aspects of your health insurance plan, which is a very key benefit, your benefits were competitive. Your generic drug costs were very competitive, and your TMRS retirement plan and deferred comp and retiree health insurance were also competitive, as well as holiday time off. You were below market on life insurance. Most of the cities offer at least 2 to 3 times the employee's annual salary for the amount of life insurance, and y'all currently offer 10,000. But in our proposal, there is a first step to get us moving forward on that benefit. Also, your tier 4 drug costs and 90-day mail order drug costs were below market. We think you should consider in the future offering short-term and long-term disability. All the cities in the market offered short-term disability, and all but one offered long-term disability. And many of these have that insurance being paid by the employee, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be a cost to the city. Also below market, 6 of the 8 cities that reported information on tuition reimbursement do offer reimbursement for tuition at trade schools or colleges and universities. The city of Brownsville does not. We think you should look at your vehicle allowance amounts. The city manager amount is definitely low. And 5 of the 6 cities that reported information on adjustments to pay schedules did regularly adjust their pay schedules. So we strongly encourage you to look annually at making adjustments to your pay schedules so that once we get you competitive, then you can stay competitive. And I think the next slide, no, okay, I've got a couple more. Okay, so what do we recommend? Well, we had our perfect world scenario before we knew what this was going to cost. And in that perfect world, we said that the city should set aside 5% of your current payroll, which is 3.1 million, to at least bring employees up to the entry of the pay rate, thinking that 3.1 million would usually do that for us. Step 2, we would have recommended that you set aside another 5%, another 3.1 million for compression, to deal with compression issues. That's where you have a longer term employee and a brand new employee, both sitting at the entry to the pay grade. And I know you're going to have some of that, and you've had it in the past. So dealing with compression and then making a COLA, or a cost of living adjustment, and across the board adjustment to your pay schedules and all employees as of October 1. Step 3, we were recommending that the city become competitive at the median level, and then that you make a commitment to stay competitive at the median of the market, which is a conservative but competitive place to be. We also recommend that you spot check selected jobs against the market each year, and that you do a compensation study every 3 to 5 years, so that you're looking at everything every 3 to 5 years. And then the last step would be making annual adjustments according to the market spot check, and then adjusting your pay schedules and employees' pay annually at the percent change in ECI, the Employment Cost Index, for wages and salaries. So we unfortunately do not live in a perfect world. And if we go to the next slide, we will look at what reality looks like in the city of Brownsville's current situation. The first thing is that we found you would need more than the 5% set aside for the comp analysis and the 5% set aside for the COLA, just to take care of getting everybody to the new entry and dealing with compression. So our goal at that point was to use the 3.1 million available to have the most impact for the most employees. And then step 2, to consider multiple approaches, which we outlined for you on the following slides. And at the top of this slide, you see that our key concerns were innovation and fairness and equity for all employees. Step 3, we want to get the city of Brownsville to the 50th percentile from this study as soon as fiscally possible. We hope that you will commit to consider a COLA each year to change the pay schedules and employees' pay so that you don't fall so far behind again in the future, and that you'll commit to find ways to address the compression issue as this year and next year and the oncoming years proceed. Steps 4 and 5 are basically the same as they would be in a perfect world, that you do those spot checks every year, and then you do a compensation study every 3 to 5 years. And you now have the in-house expertise to be able to do that. And then that you make the annual adjustments and look at the employment cost index each year and adjust the pay schedules according to that figure, what the annual change is from the previous year to the current year. And at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Perla Cepeda to tell you about what the cost is.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Perla Cepeda, the NHR Director. So continue with the presentation. The cost to implement the compensation study is $3.5 million, and we include the benefits in that amount. As we mentioned, the available funding for fiscal year 23 is $3.1 million. Based on the implementation costs and, of course, our available funding, we create full compensation package with 4 different proposals, 4 different components. So next slide, it's the component number 1. And the component number 1 is phase approach. So this component, it's on the regular and the recurring expenses. So the proposals is to do an implementation of the compensation at the 88%, that is linked or equal to 3.1 million. We are recommending to do this adjustment for October 2022. The 12% remaining to be implemented, we are recommending, once we have funding available, continue with the phase approach. So we also include an example for how looks a compensation study phase with this approach example for maintenance worker. So currently the city of Brownsville, the grade pay, we have 1010. So now with the new proposal with the 100% is 1168, and the proposed paid entry at 88%, it's 11.49. So also we have a new pay entry that is a 1042. So the component number 2, it's one-time stipend base, pay based on the market gap. So we create different tiers, and you can see it on the screen. We have 4 tiers. For example, employees that are from 0 to 4.9 on the market gap, we are recommending a stipend of $1,200, and we have the percentage of employees is 41%. Employees with 5 to 9.99 market gap, we are recommending $1,500 stipend, and we have 9% of those employees. And then we have employees with 10 to 14.99%. We are recommending a stipend of $1,800, and we have 10% of those employees. Also, we are including employees with 50% market gap with 2,100 stipend, and it's 34% of employees. This is funded by sales taxes surplus. This is not recurring expenses. So the total amount for this implementation of the component number 2 is 1.07 million. So the next component is one-time longevity pay. This is, we're using the same structure as a civil service. This proposal is based on years of service, that is a $48 per year of service, and we are capped at 25 years of service, and we are recommending to do the implementation on effective January 2023. So the total cost is $297,000, and we are including the wages, we're including the taxes, that is TMRS, workers' comp, FICA. And this is a one-time, and it's where recurrent funding is available.
I would say that this would be the first time in the history of the city that longevity pay is included as a benefit. And the intent is, while it shows one time, the intent is to continue to fund it year after year.
So the next component is additional benefit about the life insurance. This is part of the recurring expenses. So we are proposing increase the life insurance from $10,000 to $50,000. This is in addition to the coverage that we currently have with TMRS, that is a value at 1 year of salary. So the proposed cost for this component number 4 is $110,000. The current annual cost is $32,000, and we have the difference, $78,000. So we have the next steps.
Mayor and Commissioners, just a quick overview. We met with the Compensation Subcommittee on August 8th, August 11th. We had feedback from them this past week. Here we are at the commission meeting. This is a work session to really receive your feedback. And as we would request implementing this 4-component approach, where we would deal with those market variances from what our employees are seeing now to what we're proposing, up to that 88%. Those that are at market or above market would not see that adjustment, because we're really compensating or equitably working through those large differences in market differences that we're seeing. However, all those employees would receive a stipend, depending on that 4-tier equitable system, depending on how far they're off market. And life insurance would also be implemented in October, with longevity pay in January. And that concludes our presentation, and we're here for any questions you may have.
If I may, I mean, everything sounds good. It's something that should have been done a while back. I'm glad we did it. I think it's something the employees certainly deserve, and it's the least we can do. 88% makes sense. That's kind of where we are. That's the money we allocated. I wish we could do 100, but 88% still pretty good. And then the other 12% will be phased in at some point. Stipends work, so I'm okay with everything.
And I would just add, Mayor, as one of the commissioners who served on the compensation committee, to the employees, I want to be sure you guys are aware that the commission has been working very hard at this, and please know that the restraints that we have are based on what we inherited from previous administrations. But have no doubt that the people you see up here before you today are absolutely working to get you exactly where we know you deserve to be for the work that you give to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Next item, we have work session number 2, presentation on hotel occupancy tax hot funding for the fiscal year 2023, Communications and Marketing Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. I'm going to give them a moment just to restart the PowerPoint. We're just making a quick edit here.
Well, Monica, I expect you're going to be much more brief than the last presentation.
Yes, yes. So I just wanted to recap the available funding. So our projected fund balance is just over $1 million, effective September 30th. This is projected. Our projected revenues for fiscal year 2023 is just over 1.8. And our total funding requests came out to $2,038,000. And then just to recap, we have a year-to-date increase of $278,000, which is approximately 36%.
There's an issue with the screen. Go ahead.
Oh, we're good. So this is the same slide that y'all also saw last time. So in summary, each application was reviewed by the audit committee to ensure that organizations met the criteria. Commissioner De Los Santos did abstain from reviewing the Multicultural District and Sombrero Fest, and additional documentation was requested from the following applications. So what we're providing to you all today is a recommendation for funding. We are recommending to fund at the full amount, just because we did get a higher request than what we received. We were able to separate from reoccurring and non-recurring. The non-recurring would be a one-time commitment for the historic preservation improvements, and that is for the Gorgas Science Foundation, which is Sable Palm Sanctuary, and the Brownsville Historical Association. Additionally, this is the recommended funding levels for the new applicants. So we have new funding requests from Mr. Amigo, Holiday Village, Rav Run, Sombrero Fest, and Beer Fest. Here we are not recommending to fund Rav Run through this pot of funds. They're a new organization for the city of Brownsville. They've done races in other cities, and they're looking to bring one to Brownsville. But because the request is $5,000, we're recommending to take this to the CVB board, who has an additional pot of funding for activities like this. So funding summary, we're recommending to, of the 1,864,000, we're recommending to fund 1,854 of recurring funds. This gives us a balance of 10,000. And then for our recommended allocation for non-recurring funds is 158,000 for the historic preservation elements. So this will give us a fund balance of 846,959 of a fund balance. And here on the right, you can see the items for historic preservation. Are there any questions?
Not an action item, so I'd open it up just in case anybody has any questions.
All right.
It would be included in the budget.
Correct.
For today.
Thank you.
Next item, we have presentations. Presentation on pilot program for electric scooters by BIRT, Multimodal Transportation Department.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. The item before you is electric scooters. We have had multiple companies contact us. They're interested in providing electric scooters for the community here. One of the companies is presenting before you here this evening, but we would like to get some feedback from you. We're here wanting to get information, guidance on your thoughts, the future of electric scooters within the city. That's really what we would like to get. But presenting here for BIRD is Garrett Granowski. After his presentation, we'd like to get some type of feedback on what your thoughts are.
Thanks, Jay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. I know we have a consolidated presentation as well, so we will obviously just touch on the high-level overview of what this program looks like. Ultimately, as James stated, we are looking to execute an operating agreement that will allow Bird Operations, that is our micromobility fleet of shared electric scooters. These are short-term rentals that will provide an alternative mode of transportation that is sustainable, socially distanced, to help with first and last mile transportation, connectivity, and ultimately our goal here at Bird is to eliminate unnecessary car trips. So seeking that approval of that operating agreement, obviously that is down the road. This is a no-cost micromobility solution for the city, so there is no budget needed to implement this. Again, we are seeking approval and we will bring operations to your city. We then will work with a local entrepreneur. So this is someone who lives in Brownsville, a local entrepreneur who is mechanically savvy to help us run day-to-day operations. We will work with the administration to strategically plan on where to place these e-scooters as an alternative mode of transportation, and then really use the data that the community, the administration will have access to. So obviously you get a very transparent view into where the community is using this mode of transportation, so we can even strategically plan and run operations better. So quickly, again, we are seeking approval of an operating agreement to bring a fleet of electric scooters to serve as a public transportation outlet that will be alternative mode of transportation. Again, an added value to your existing transportation network. A little bit about Bird. And again, my name is Garrett Bernowski. I'm a senior county executive here. I've been with the company since 2018, so just after we launched. So we were the pioneers in the shared e-scooter space back in 2017. We were the first company to put a shared e-scooter domestically on the streets. Fast forward to today, we are now operating on 5 continents, 25 countries, over 350 cities. We've had over $100 million rides, and we are a public traded company. So that just kind of speaks on the financial backing and partnership and best practices that you'll get when you do partner with a company like Bird. And you can go to the next slide. We are dedicated to providing micromobility to communities that believe in it, obviously providing sustainability, lessening your carbon footprint at a no-cost outlet is something that is very unique. Pre-pandemic, we were only really launching those, larger metropolitan cities, large universities. That's no longer the case. We now operate at a long list of cities. Obviously, you can see them there. A lot of them in the state of Texas, where our smallest one there is only 15,000 city population. We've learned that even at that city population, it's still utilization is still there, where the individuals are using it. The e-scooter space is a unique one where supply creates demand. Obviously, you don't have any demand for scooters right now, but you put them on the streets and people use them. 65% of these rides are going to be to a definite destination. So that's local businesses, local restaurants, work, school, but also means 35% of it is going to be an amenity for the community. So, there will be joyriding going on. There is a sense of fun on this. It's sustainable. It's socially distanced. It's open air. And a study just came out by the University of Atlanta. One Bird scooter helps about generate $950 per year in sporadic spend. So creating these additional trips that the community wouldn't take just because they have a means to do so. You can go to the next slide.
Garrett. Thanks, Garrett. City Commissioner, Mayor, please let us know how you would like for us to proceed with this.
So Frank, and I can't pronounce your last name. So Frank, years ago, and I see Art in the back there, we decided to look into bike share. And we didn't just pick a company, and we didn't just pay attention to the company that called us, but we actually put together a team, you remember, Art, that toured about 4 or 5 different cities in Texas that had bike share. I remember College Station was one, I forget the other cities. And we analyzed which bike share would be better for the city of Brownsville. And then we coordinated with UTRGV, because UTRGV wanted to implement bike share. And we wanted, of course, to coordinate with them, because we wouldn't want to use a company that UTRGV didn't pick, because we wanted students to be able to seamlessly travel back and forth across the valley. So it was a study, and it was a very careful decision that we made to choose that bike share. We didn't just pick one company without looking into it, and we didn't just respond to one company that called us. Many cities have put in scooter share and removed it because of injuries. I'm not sure that we have the correct ordinances in place to keep scooters off sidewalks, especially in downtown area. Makes me think about scooters that are zipping around our small sidewalks, pedestrians getting hurt, and so forth. And we don't have ordinances, I don't believe, that govern speeds on our trails, which would impact scooter use as well. So although I appreciate the presentation and I'm not against it, but I don't think we're ready yet, and I don't think that we've looked at it in a scientific way like we did the bike share.
You're
And
absolutely
I see
correct.
Art shaking his head in the back because he remembers that.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. This is the initial conversation that we want to have with the city commission. We would like some guidance on how you would like for us to proceed. Again, we have had 2 companies right now approach us with interest, and we would like to know how you would like for us to proceed.
If I can chime in, I've seen issues in other cities as well. I think the most important thing is to try and get out ahead of this and just be conscious of where the injuries may occur, where the situations may arise. Other cities have had issues with sidewalk, specifically these scooters being left on sidewalks, being left in right-of-ways, being left in places where people walk or where wheelchairs may be. So that's been an issue in other cities. And then also, even more importantly, is the safety aspect and trying to ensure that, well, I mean, certainly, I don't know on the city side how we can ensure more safety, but I would take a look at that, see if there's anything we can do. And then also on legal, I mean, if before any of this gets going, if we need to employ any sort of ordinances to ensure that we're in a better position, then I think we should consider that as well.
We've been in contact with multimodal, and that was one of our recommendations, is that although this presentation can be made, ideally, the city wants to, and it talks about a pilot program. At a minimum, the city wants to enact maybe a pilot program ordinance that has a sunset provision that allows for the exploration of a project like this with city-established standards that would address safety, queuing, maintenance, and see how that pilot program goes, that multiple entities providing scooter share could participate in. But if that's the case, we can definitely work with multimodal and present something like that for consideration.
Yeah, I think this makes sense in a lot of places in Brownsville, but I just think you just have to make sure that we try and at least get out ahead of it ordinance-wise, if that's the best thing for us to do.
Yes, sir.
I think it's not only the ordinance, also it's how it relates to bikes and other modes of transportation, right? So, we see in Austin, it falls and then people trip over them. So I think a comprehensive approach, even on encroachment on sidewalks and how that should be located.
That's what a pilot program ordinance would include, would include all those different factors into there.
But before you do the pilot, I would strongly encourage you to visit the other cities that use them. And some cities, make sure you include cities who have removed them and find out why. What were the positives, what were the negatives, and so forth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of literature out there. There's, by now, 4 years, 5 years down the road, there's a lot of best practices now. I think that
There are a lot of cities in the Dallas DFW Metroplex, the suburbs, that tried to adopt it. I know Dallas had them, removed them, and is now maybe considering bringing them back. But there's a lot of lessons learned from other cities and see what they've done.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good one.
Next item, we have consent agenda items.
Do we have any motions?
Mayor, I'd like to pull out 13 and 15.
Okay.
Motion to approve except for 13 and 15.
All right, we have a motion to approve, pulling out 13 and 15. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. So item 13.
13, I was just curious because I thought we had something like this in place already. So what is
Yeah,
different about this one?
Commissioner De Los Santos, it appears as though that is true, but when our legal team went back and looked for the actual ordinance or the resolution adopted by the city, it was not there. This just brings us into compliance and makes sure that we have it memorialized now, that is in fact the case.
Very good. I'll move to approve.
Second.
I just really quick, what we've been enforcing now is the same threshold, 50,000?
Yes.
Okay, very good. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
And on 15, who's in the hot seat? Just a brief question for you, Brian, and I appreciate you guys looking at the feedback I gave you guys last time, but I noticed how it looks like one is going to go back to the advisory board and the other one is not going to be considered at all by them?
It can be. We can pull that if you'd like, and then if you want to approve it with the exception of that, I think we can do that.
I just wanted to make sure I understood why the two suggestions were being treated differently. I just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Just to save everybody's time, and not bring it back to our airport board, but we'll be glad to bring both of your items back.
That works. I'm satisfied with that explanation. I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item, we have public hearings. Item number 1, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 2022-1705 of the City of Brownsville, Texas, to adopt the fiscal year 2023 annual budget, Financial Services Department.
And I'm stepping out for the next 3 items that deal with the budget since hot tax monies are part of the budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Miguel Cavazos, Budget Officer for the City of Brownsville, and I will be presenting the first hearing for the fiscal year 23 annual budget. We'll be going over the hot funds, the hot update, the funding request, the fiscal year 23 budget highlights, and key dates. On the Convention and Terrorism Fund, we are going to provide a brief update. We are proposing a balanced budget for fiscal year 23 with hotel motel tax revenues of $1.86 million. And we are also proposing an expense of the same amount. Of the $1.86 million of expenses, we have $732,000 of operating expenses and $1.13 allocated to organizations that will be discussed on the next slide. The estimated fund balance for the end of the current fiscal year, we are estimating $1.05 million. We estimate to have, there's a correction here, $846,000 at the end of fiscal year 2023. This is approximately 170 days, not 175, which is well over the 60 days as recommendation. So in follow to the work session, we are recommending with the budget to fund the request as they were received. In 2 instances, Brownsville Historic Association and Gorga Science Foundations, we are using both fiscal year 2023 budget as well as one-time funding. So for fiscal year 2023 budget highlights, July 5th, the first budget work session, we went over the budget, the fiscal year 2022 recap, the fiscal year 2022 end of year projections, and fiscal year 2023 guidelines and budget theme. July 19th was the second budget work session. We went over the surplus funding, the infrastructure maintenance fund, the capital improvement plan, CIP, and the capital outlay program. On July 29th, the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget draft was filed to City Secretary's office. On August 3rd, the budget work session number 3, we went over the setting context and building foundations, the general fund revenue and expenditure highlights, the fiscal year 2023 proposed budget. August 16th, which is today, is the public hearing approval for the hotel motel occupancy tax allocation and the fiscal year 2023 budget highlights. So for fiscal year 2023, the CIP budget, this is the 3rd year of our 5-year CIP plan. What is scheduled with the CIP for this year is more heavy equipment, more investment in street and drainage, and additional investment in technology. For this year, we expect $10 million of our whole CIP will be through a debt issuance, and $881,000 will be expected through our CDBG award. So the general fund is balanced with a tax rate of 0.691919 cents. General fund operating budget is $113,892,128. All funds combined operating budget, including enterprise funds, is $167,072,697. Our 5-year CIP is for $145,979,376. And for fiscal year 2023, our capital budget is $10,725,881. These are our budget key dates. These are the meetings we've had up until this evening, August 16th, which is the first reading to adopt the budget. August 6th will be the second reading to adopt the budget. Any questions?
Do we have any questions from the commission?
Okay, so I've got questions about hot tax, and then have we seen the list, though, of the streets that are going to get fixed next year? Because that's always what I look forward to. Because it would be in here, right? Sorry. But, okay, so I've looked through the numbers, and thank you for the presentation. It seems to me that all the organizations that applied are getting the amounts that they requested except for the RAV4, correct? And then Brownsville Wellness Coalition, because I guess they didn't complete the process of application. Okay, so and I think you and I discussed that at this moment, there's no criteria for how to limit just besides the amount of money that's given, right? If you qualify, if you present expenses, then there's not. My concern, and I'm letting this know to the nonprofits generally, is if you're self-sustaining and you're asking for more money, then should you be allowed all the money that you're requesting just because we have it? And specifically, I'm talking about the 3 Child Days organizations. As I'm not sure if all of them are profitable. I believe Sombrero Fest is. I don't know if there's maybe a representative of Sombrero Fest who could answer that question directly. And so my concern is if we're just going to give money to organizations that are already self-sustaining or profitable even, and if we're just going to keep giving money, because there's other organizations here that are barely making ends meet, and they do contribute a lot to society. And I'm not saying that the Child Days organizations don't, but that's my primary concern with the Child Days, Sombrero Fest, and Mr. Amigo. The Multicultural District. If someone here is here to represent that, I would like to know exactly what the money is going to go towards and who it's going to go towards. So if there's anyone here that can answer those questions, that would be great.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Brian Martinez. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Multicultural District. This year, we did ask for an increase in the hot funds. Now that we have a full-time staff on the nonprofit, we are now taking a more parent approach to our marketing in the Multicultural District. Historically, we've always asked for our memberships to contribute to the pot for us to advertise the downtown area as a whole. This year, we're not asking any money from any of the members. We're taking an approach as a parent, like I said, and taking all of the advertising expenses to ourselves, in addition to creating anchor events during the year. These anchor events are focused on arts and culture, which is what we applied for the hot funds. And so that would entail, we have 5 upcoming in the next year that are outlined in the application. We are detailing how each dollar goes to all of these efforts.
So because you're the Director of Marketing, are you the only one who does the marketing?
The logistics and execution of the duties is divided between the Executive Director and the Director of Marketing.
Do you do the marketing, or do you hire other organizations to do the marketing?
Both.
And then my concern is, and I've mentioned this before, are you Chief of Staff for the City Commissioner? Because I believe then there's a conflict, or even if legal says that it just doesn't look right.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here to answer any hot related questions you have for the Multicultural District.
But are you also currently also employed as Commissioner de los Santos's Chief of Staff?
As a private citizen, I am employed by Commissioner Los Santos.
Thank you. So that's it. That's all I have for now.
Thank you.
My comments, well, on top of that, Commissioner Cardenas and has not been able to attend because he had a death in the family. And so I would be okay with passing everything except for this so that he would have an opportunity to participate. So if that's the motion, then I'll move to approve the budget, except that we postpone we table the hot tax stuff. We can we can table it all for his.
Is that permissible?
I think we can go ahead and,
Well, because
we can bring a revision.
well, because you're going to come back at it with a second reading.
That's true.
So if the motion is to approve it without the hot funds, it's still going to be voted on in final form at the September 6th meeting.
September 6th.
It doesn't affect any sort of budget issues for September 6th, so if this were to get approved, I'm not sure if it will, but if it does, then how will it affect the September 6th budget?
It won't. It's like kind of how we think with a regular ordinance. I would equate it to that. Any kind of revisions aren't final until the last reading anyway. So if the proposal is without the hot funds now, they could be added at the second reading back into it, depending on that vote.
Lupe, do you see any, are you fine with that? That's fine.
There could always be changes, amendments to it before the second reading is finalized.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone here there representing Sombrero Fest? Or?
Monica, to Commissioner Galansky's question of funding an event that is self-sustaining and profitable, is that part of the application?
Not the
No.
current application, but if it's something that the commission would like to add for this coming year, we can definitely do that.
I just wondered because it's a reasonable question.
Yeah. No, it was not included in this year's application.
Okay, we do have a motion to approve with the exception of hot fund allocations. Is there a second?
One quick
Oh, we
question.
have a
There's
public hearing?
It is a public hearing. I'm
Is it-
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thanks.
it's
This
fine.
is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, come on up. Is there a time limit on this, Council?
Yes, same.
Same? Okay.
Hello again, Commissioners and Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you today. I would also like more than just the district to have other recommendations to prove their eligibility. I feel like the Children's Museum has not proven that they're a safe institution. They're lying about the employment status. I'd like to see the audit on the employment of Daniel Molstad that's unhampered with. I think that these things should be really considered before the museum and their financial officers receive any more funds. Like I said earlier in my statement, my allegations are not just allegations. I believe they're rooted in fact. I've submitted to you some text messages that show that there's an improper relationship between multiple organizations within the district and a sitting city commissioner. I feel like those things need to be discussed, and a portion of hot tax funds for those organizations not be approved. So thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Can I ask another question? This is going back to the Midi Cultural Districts. A few weeks ago, we approved, well, not we, because I didn't, but some of my peers approved a MOU where they would get so much money from the city for marketing and events, correct? How does that differ then from what would be financed with these hot funds? is it different events or different services?
I would defer to the representative of the organization to make the distinction in the intent for the appropriation of funds. But your recollection serves you correctly, Commissioner. Your recollection serves you correctly, that the MOU as approved by this body at that time was with the intent to support the growth of the Media Cultural District Foundation and its body of work.
And in that contract, they were awarded $75,000 a year for 2 years?
In an amount not to exceed, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As it would be, I believe, at least a minimum of a 2-for-1 match.
Okay. But, Mr. Martinez, would the services or events that were being touted as going to be taking effect because of that MOU, are they similar to what was propositioned for the hot funds?
Yes, ma'am. The MOU that was engaged between the City of Brownsville, the Media Foundation, and the Media Culture District outlines a match, just like Ms. Walker explained, up to not to exceed that amount. That is to support ongoing efforts as the district continues to grow. We have tripled our perimeter. In doing so, we have acquired a lot of nonprofit organizations and things of that nature. So to support the ongoing operational efforts, that's where that money specifically is going. The hot funds that we requested are for more advertising for local tourism, heads to beds, as we call it, for the hot funds. That is tailored specifically towards advertising and the anchor events, as I mentioned, throughout the year that are being put on by the district itself.
What do you mean by operational expenses?
Those are current operational expenses I can't recall off the top of my head where those go exactly. I would have to get back to you on that one.
And that was my concern with that MOU because it didn't really specify things, but, well, we got an answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments or anybody else who wishes to speak on this? Okay. Do we have a motion to close? We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right. Now, do we have any motions on the item?
I see Doro on the screen. Do you already have the streets for next year planned?
The CIP,
Yes.
we have Old Highway 77, and this is for the design, Old Alice. Street and Coffee Road, and that'll be for design. This is full reconstruction.
Can you repeat it? Were you able to hear those streets? Okay.
Same ones we approved last meeting, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
There's 4 of them that were approved last meeting, which were Old Highway 77, Wild Rose, 14th Street, and Coffee Road. The following meeting, we'll be having Old Alice and Stagecoach. And that's
So no
for
small residential streets?
design.
The question, Dodo, you may not have been able to hear, Commissioner just asked was, is there any smaller residential streets that are on the list as well?
I think we lost them.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and send you a comprehensive list of streets. Commissioner, you can look at that. If there's any amendments that you would like to propose, we would consider that for the September 6th meeting. Thank you.
I'll move to approve the proposed budget, except for the hot, or treat the hot occupancy separately from the rest. Does that make sense?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? I'm opposed only because I don't think the hot funds should be kind of held hostage. And those entities should be at risk of losing funding for any issues like this. But motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, we have public hearings number 2.
For the full reconstruction CIP, for the full reconstruction, it's only major thoroughfares.
Just send us a list, Dodo. You're rigging up.
No, that's fine. We can just follow up with the list and of all types of streets. Thank you so much. The whole room was like, what is going on?
Public hearing number 2, public hearing in action on first reading of ordinance number 2022-1706 to ratify the fiscal year 2023 budget that will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget. Financial Services Department.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Lupe Granado, Finance Director, and Commissioner, Have some highlights here. This year's property tax levy will raise more revenues from property taxes than in the preceding years. Local government code requires the government body to hold a separate vote to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget or vote to set the tax rate. Section 102 of the tax code, local Texas government requires the adoption of a budget that raises more revenues from property taxes than in the previous years, requires a separate vote for the government, from the governing body to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the budget. And as such vote is in addition to and separate from the vote to adopt the budget or to set the tax rate. Tax rate's the one that we're gonna have next. To ensure compliance with local government code, staff requests a vote by the City Commission to ratify the tax revenues that are included in fiscal year 23 budget, which are more than those included in fiscal year 22 budget. This increased revenue from property tax is based on the tax rate of 0.69119. The increase on the M&O is going to be about $1.6 million, and the debt service about $1 million extra that we're getting from last year. And we're just recommending that we ratify this through a vote.
Do we have any questions from the commission? All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? All right, do we have a motion to close?
Motion to close?
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any motions on the item?
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Public hearing number 3, public hearing in action on first reading of ordinance number 2022-1707, levying ad valorem taxes for the tax year 2022 for the use and support of the municipal government of the City of Brownsville, Texas for the fiscal year 2023, providing for the interest and sinking fund for the fiscal year 2023 City of Brownsville, Texas general obligation bonds. Financial Services Department.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, the governing body of a taxing unit may not adopt a tax rate that exceeds the lower of the voter-approved tax rate or the no new revenue tax rate until the governing body has held a public hearing on the proposed tax rate. There has to be a quorum, take place in the boundaries of the taxing entity, be conducted on a weekday that is not a public holiday, allow taxpayers an opportunity to express their opinions. Public hearing may not, Property Tax Code expressly authorizes the governing body to vote on the proposed tax rate at the property tax public hearing. The proposed tax rates that we're recommending is at 0.69119, which is approximately half a penny or 0.005194 lower than the current tax rate. Just as a highlight, this is the third year that the city reduces the tax rate. So the first two were incremental. This is almost half a penny. And again, the current rate is going from 0.69113 to 0.69119, or half a penny. The debt service will be allocated 0.264380%, cents, and the M&O, which goes to the general fund, is 0.427539. As per Tax Code 26.05B, requires a motions be adopted to adopt the tax ordinance to be as the following form, and it has to be read verbatim. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.691919, which is effectively a 5.29 increase to the tax rate. And the text of the tax rate is a no new revenue rate. That's why there's that increase there, but we are reducing the tax rate itself. It's a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, do we have a motion to close?
Motion to close?
We have a motion to close and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any motions on the item?
Dr. Gowan, you want to take it?
Motion to approve.
You have to read it
You have to
verbatim.
read it.
Oh,
Can you
I
put
have to
that,
read
can you put it back
verbatim.
up, please?
Sorry.
She
Okay,
usually reads the.
Motion to, do I start from? Okay.
I move.
I moved for ordinance number 2022-1707, levying
It's
at.
on the screen.
Thank you. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.691919, which is effectively a 5.29% increase in the tax rate.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 4, public hearing in action to authorize the City of Brownsville Police Department to apply for the fiscal year 2022 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program Application, Grant 136-74760, in the amount of $89,954. Brownsville Police Department.
Mayor, City Commission, I'm Commander James Pascal. This item is a public hearing and action to authorize the City of Brownsville Police Department to apply for the fiscal 2022 Justice Assistance Grant. During the consent agenda items, the commission approved the interlocal agreement between the City of Brownsville Police Department, Cameron County, and the City of Harlingen regarding this grant, commonly known under the acronym JAG. Just a brief history, the JAG grant, which started in 2005, provides states, government agencies, and local governments with nearly $250 million of annual funding to address law enforcement needs. The City of Brownsville has participated in this grant program for the past 17 years. The total grant amount this year is $89,954. We're requesting commission approval for this grant. The Brownsville Police Department will be using its funding for its explosive ordnance unit, or bomb unit. We will be purchasing a handheld radiation detector, portable x-ray equipment, and various other tools. Cameron County will be using its funding to purchase equipment for various county law enforcement departments and provide training. The City of Harlingen will be purchasing crime scene investigation equipment. This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who's going to speak on this item?
I'll
Okay.
move to close, Mayor.
We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any motion on the
I'll
item?
move to approve the request.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 5, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 2022-1709, an ordinance adding Chapter 56, Fair Practices, and repealing Chapter 58, Housing, Article 3, Fair Housing, and dealing with related matters. City Manager's Office and LGBTQ Task Force.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight we have Brian L. Martinez, who is the chair now, congratulations, for the LGBTQ plus task force, and he will be covering the presentation on fair practices ordinance. We also have our legal team who has assisted throughout the process that can answer any legal questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. In 2019, a group of Brownsville residents came together after a couple of incidents happened regarding harassment and discrimination in our city. In December of 2019, the city established the first LGBTQ task force south of San Antonio, thus creating history in doing so. The purpose of the task force was to explore strategies for improving awareness, advocacy, inclusivity, policy, and cultural competence on issues impacting the LGBTQ plus people in the city of Brownsville. And as part of that continued mission, we are here today to recommend the adoption of the Fair Practice Ordinance for the city of Brownsville. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. My name is Brian Martinez. I am the chairman of the LGBTQ Task Force. I'd like to recognize the rest of the task force with me today, both present and past members. We have Cesar Villarreal, please stand up and be recognized. Leo Lozano, Fish Navarro. We have also Joe Colono Valles joining us today as well. And I'd also like to recognize Mr. Sean Kelly. Thank you, sir. And today we have Norma as well online. and Angel as well. I'd like to also recognize for the record Albert Hinojosa and Berenice Marquez. They were also part of the LGBTQ task force. Next slide, please. This truly was it took a village to put this together. We've been in existence for almost 3 years now, and this was our primary goal, to come and present something to the commission. The purpose of this ordinance is to codify protections against discrimination in our city with regards in areas of employment, housing, and public accommodation. This was collaborated with the Human Rights Campaign, Lambda Legal, ACLU of Texas, Equality Texas. The final language, however, was crafted extensive work between the task force, the city attorney's office, and community partners. Next slide, please. This language of the ordinance is consistent with similar ordinances in the state of Texas. There's about, if not around 5, less than 10 for sure, other ordinances in the state of Texas. Again, we would be making history by enacting an ordinance of this kind. The language is consistent, but it was tailored specifically for Brownsville. This went back and forth, and the language has been thoroughly vetted by the city attorney's office. The focus of the Chapter 56 for practices is to bring opportunity for every person to obtain employment, access to all places of public accommodation, access to housing without regard to race, color, religion, gender, familial status, national origin, age, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression. Next slide, please. The LGBTQ Task Force recommends approval and adoption of the proposed ordinance, and we will continue to promote the city of Brownsville to be a place of diversity and inclusivity. You can see this being done in the Municipality Equality Index. This is one of the ways that cities across are rated, how you are diverse and inclusive. This adds directly to our way of life, how we attract appealing investors and residents to come and live in our beautiful city of Brownsville. We would be the first RGV city of its kind to adopt this kind of ordinance. I'll take any questions.
Do you have any questions from the commission? All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? No? Is there somebody online?
Hi, I'd like to make a public comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Hinojosa. I wish to address the commission about public hearing item 5. I support equal protections for LGBTQ residents of Brownsville. The non-discrimination ordinance is important and necessary to provide equal protections from discrimination, harassment, and bigotry within the city of Brownsville itself. The city of Brownsville should continue to become more involved in protecting sexual and gender minorities from discrimination and bigotry. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
There's someone on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't see it.
Denise Palacios.
Denise Palacios, do you wish to speak? If so, go ahead and unmute.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing this item for discussion. I just want to say that ordinances that are proposed, like this one, make me proud to be a Brownsville resident, and that the commission should look forward to seeing ordinances like this because it shows that Brownsville is paving the way in Texas, and we need more opportunities like this. I remember the day in December 2019 when the task force was created and the amount of love and joy that was expressed that day. And I remember that Commissioner Jessica Tetro was also very excited about this. So it's good to know that we have allies and that there are people on the commission who genuinely care. And I would be really excited and really proud to see the commission pass this today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to, oh.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah.
Come on up.
Hi, buenas tardes, I'm back. This has been 3 years in the making, so I will try not to get emotional. First and foremost, a huge debt of gratitude is owed to Albert Hinojosa and Kimberly Avila, whose stories inspired the community to come together and say enough is enough. I also want to thank community members Vicente Martinez, Berenice Marquez, Brian Martinez, Logan Gowen, Maria Cordero, Fish, Roy de los Santos, now Commissioner de los Santos, Mayor Mendez, Commissioner Tetro, Marina Celesti, Elizabeth Walker. But more importantly, I want to thank the community who has continuously supported these efforts. I'm no longer in the task force. I had to step back because of a new job that I have, and time commitments have prevented me from participating, but I'm still here to see it through. I also want to thank Texas Rising RDV, Planned Parenthood South Texas Equality Project, the Valley AIDS Council, and the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Health, as well as the ACLU of Texas. Queer and trans people have been making Brownsville proud for years. Recently, in the last week, if you didn't know, drag queen Luscious Massacre, a resident of the Southwest area, won an Emmy Award for makeup in the HBO series We're Here. Our task force member Fish, for the recent features in fashion weeks across the world, collaborating with fashion house Balenciaga and even Lady Gaga. And even trans icon Kelly Klein, who is originally from Brownsville and now resides in Austin, who taught me how to use my platform as a drag performer for the greater good. And these are just the folks we know about. It's time for the city of Brownsville to show up for the LGBT community as we have shown up for the city to make the city proud. This ordinance isn't about saying our community deserves more rights than others. It's a community commitment to show up for each other, take care of each other, and more importantly, trust each other to do the right thing. Now it's up to you to do the right thing. So please pass the fair practice ordinances. What happened to Albert and Kimberly should have never happened. But with an FPO, we can make sure it doesn't happen again. And if it does, that there are clear next steps for accountability in the face of bigotry and inequality. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to close. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion?
Just a comment, Mayor. It's been my sincere pleasure to have been part of the original task force that was appointed. This has been a labor of love, 2 years in the making, and 2 years because these individuals didn't want to rush it. They wanted to get it right. This wasn't about making Brownsville more progressive. This was about ensuring we have ordinance that reflects who we are as a community, because we are a community that loves and accepts everyone, and we wanted to make sure our language represented that. And I'm very, very proud, and I think that that's what we've done. I don't see her here tonight, but I did want to give thanks also to Jennifer Avendaño with the City Attorney's Office, who have worked with us extensively over the last 2 years to bring us to where we are today. We couldn't have done it without her.
And if I may as well, I remember, I can't believe it's been 3 years since we had that meeting, Joe, with you and Albert, and Commissioner Tetro and I were here. And at that time, hearing that story and just listening to some of the treatment that one of the members of our community endured because of the way that they chose to express who they were, for me as mayor, was unacceptable. And regardless, I think, of your orientation or who it is that you love, I think my role and my commitment as mayor has always been to help build a city that allows people to be who they are, period. And I think that I was equally shocked to hear that we were the only city south of San Antonio to have a task force, because it's something that the other cities should strongly consider. And I'm happy that Brownsville was one of the first, at least the first south of San Antonio. But for me, this is a city that people should be free to express themselves always, and regardless of what other people have to say. I think you love who you love, period, and you should be free to express that, whoever it is. And I think that this is one step closer for us to be that city that I think we all want to be. So thank you all, the task force members and everybody else that came together for this, that did the work to put this together. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to add and thank you all for coming together to bring this to us. Joe, Vian, Brian, and everybody. It's to have a platform like the City Commission does, and to have, we think that we're just like every other city, but I hope there are other cities out there that follow in these footsteps, because those testimonies that we heard, the day that the task force was created brought a lot of us to tears to know the loneliness that sometimes people feel when they're bullied, when they're retaliated against, when they're in that position and they feel alone. And so I'm grateful to the community for giving me this platform to lend my voice, to be that friend. You know, we all have different backgrounds, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends and be there for each other. It's a lot less lonely when you have fabulous friends. So thank you for representing the city, and thank you for being in my life, and thank you for always supporting me and teaching me and just being my friend. We should all be friends with each other.
Any other comments? All right, we did have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you all for making history.
We have items for individual consideration, consideration and action to acknowledge the Finance Director's financial statements and cash investment report for the City of Brownsville for the third quarter ended June 30, 2022. Financial Services Department.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, financial packet was included in your packet, and presentation was on there. I will go over it briefly, just to highlight some of the items. If you have any questions, go ahead and stop me and answer as best I can. The financials unaudited investment report for quarter ending June 30th, 2022, or Q3. Some highlights: general fund revenues and transfers from other funds, $94.5 million. General fund expenditures and transfers to other funds, $83.8 million. Sales tax are trending higher, $31.4 million. I'll go over that a little bit more. Property tax collections also doing good at $51.6 million. PUB transfers total about $8.2 million, also incrementally higher than last quarter of last year. Landfill fees, $11.9 million. And Veterans Bridge is also trending higher than last year at $2.3 million. This is a breakdown of the revenue, general fund revenues. The biggest one on here is total revenues across all revenue sources from sales tax, property tax, PUB transfers, all the multiple. You have incremental increases in all of them, except for miscellaneous, that's down by $300,000, but everything else is higher. Actually, we're fiscal year 22 revenues exceed fiscal year 21 revenues to the same period of $3.5 million. On this one, I'll go over the scale, the sales tax rolling 12 history on the top right-hand corner. That yellow line that's trending on there. One of the items to note, the last 3 months, the increase over last year, the rolling increase over last year has dropped. When we're seeing 20, 30% above previous years, the last 4 months have just barely, at 10, 12. This last month, we're about 7%. So those peaks that we were experiencing, those are moderately coming down. So we're not going to be seeing those. So
And that speaks to our financial policy in terms of not usually using more than 30% towards recurring. I think that's part, it fits into, you don't know where the sales tax is going to go, so let's fit into that policy.
And thank you for that. Sales tax highlight, this is just sales tax revenues over budget, about $4.9 million. Property highlights of the total $52.9 million, about 63% goes into the general fund, and about 37% or 19.3 goes into the debt service fund to take care of our debt service payments. Property tax highlights, we've collected about 95.6% of the taxes assessed. Prior year collections, total collected at $1.3 million. Utilities and transfers from PUB. The utilities are slightly up compared to last year, $3.6 million, and cash transfers are also about $1.1 million over the same period of last quarter, or 16%. Other general fund revenues to highlight, intergovernmental, these are grant revenues. You'll see a little decrease on there, well, actually a significant decrease. noting that CARES funding was a big bulk that we got, so we're not going to get those revenues. There are other grant revenues we do get, but that's why we see a big decrease on that particular line item. Fees and services were up about $891,000. This is attributed to ambulance, fire services, minor increases to library, vital statistics, parks, youth programs, fines and forfeiture, municipal court. Basically, we're up about $203,000. Interest income, we're incrementally higher, about $109,000 compared to the same quarter last year. We expect as interest rates increases, we expect revenues to increase also. Expenditures, highlight on this one, expenditures are a little bit slightly over than last year, about $2.6 million. And it's broken down into different categories under public safety, general government, and culture, recreation, and so forth. Fund balance, out of the 71.4 fund balance, 60 million is unassigned monies that we could be used. 16.8 of it as last year's surplus monies. We remaining 43.2% is unassigned fund balance. It estimates about 147 days in operating funds, and this exceeds the city's minimum unassigned fund balance policy statement. All other funds on here, this summarizes special revenues, debt service fund, and enterprise funds. On the far right-hand corner, you'll see them all in positive, which is good. The only one consistently is a negative. It's a community grant, and that's because we incur the expenses and then we draw the money the following subsequent period. But those revenues and expenses equal at the end of the fiscal year. Employee benefit fund is doing good this year. Total contributions include the city's contributions, employees' contributions or retirees, and rebates total about $11.1 million. Medical claims and expenditures in over about $9 million. We have an excess of about $2 million this year. You add it to the beginning fund balance, net position as of September 30th, $5.1 million. Economic indicators, well, one of the big items I'll go over the left-hand side. You'll see the bar graph of the revenues that we're getting from Veterans Bridge. The gold line on the top is the budget. The green line at the bottom is the quarter-to-date amounts. We're actually exceeding the quarter-to-date, and we'll probably exceed our budget amounts for next quarter. Building permits. The scale on the left-hand side, one of the big items on this one is the number of actual building permits has increased about 16%, which is good. The more important factor here, the permit value is actually doubled through the same third quarter of fiscal year, which is good.
We did just know we combined positions to add a commercial plan reviewer. So, and we did that immediately last week because, as you can see, there's a pain point there with even processing. So hopefully we can get that filled as soon as possible, but it's out there.
But this translates into new property values for next fiscal year. Unemployment rate, incrementally, we're always higher than the national average. We're about 4.1 unemployment rate as of June 30th. And lastly, the investment report. Our investment report, you have mainly invested in interest-bearing accounts, some certificate deposits, and the other ones in public funds. The balance of this is going to be shifting more into public funds, investment pool accounts for next quarter. The average weighted day to maturity is about 15 days. Our policy says no more than 270 days. The weighted average yield, the year that we're earning, is about 0.53%. The yield that we compare ourselves to is a treasury bill, the 3-month treasury bill, which is 0.17, which we're doing great again. That concludes the presentation. You have any questions?
Do we have any questions? All right, this is an action item, I believe, right?
I'll move to acknowledge.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, we have executive sessions. Mayor, would you like to move to executive?
Yes.
Motion to move to executive session.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. Now recess to executive session.
The following items will be considered during executive session. Item number 1, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney related to legal issues associated with Project Studio, City Manager's Office. Executive number 2, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney related to legal matters associated with Project Lego, City Attorney's Office. Executive number 3, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney related to the city's franchise ordinance, City Attorney's Office. Executive number 4, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.076, security audits. It is now 8:48. Next item, adjourn.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Yes, executive session items. There's no action from
Yeah,
executive
it's,
session items.
Action item. I
There's
read
no
that
action from executive session items, and there's a motion and a second to adjourn. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, stand adjourned. Thank you.
8:48, meeting has adjourned.